mentioned Live Aid. It's just reminded me of that's a subject that comes up quite a bit on these chats. Live Aid, obviously, because everyone came together for that, and it was a landmark moment. But Nigel, I know you made the Band-Aid video that kind of kicked that whole thing off, and I've always there's a part of that I've always absolutely loved and sort of always kind of sniggered at, because Jody Whatley, who at the time was in Shalimar, was there. And I've always thought she looks absolutely bewildered at the whole thing, because it was very clear, I think, that she didn't really seem to know, she was from a different world. I think maybe they were over here shooting a video or Top of the Pops or whatever. And so she was asked along. And then you see, she was kind of tucked to one side with members of Status Quo. And you just think it was so out of context. It just, that moment in the video where she's just thinking, who are these people? I wondered what your take on that was. Do you remember her there?
Oh, sure. I mean, Phil Collins was there, and everybody stayed to watch Phil do his drums. And I had this moment where I thought, this is my Woodstock moment, isn't it? Burning out really early. But the real issue was firstly, Bob was an extraordinary messenger for trying to get this to happen, and he could not get any non-white artists to show up. He was like, this is fucking ridiculous, it was just the white lads mostly, apart from Bananarama. And Jody actually, I think, was living in the UK at the time, and she was on Phonogram, and I was working at Phonogram, and Bob was on Phonogram, blah, 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 blah. And eventually he managed to persuade Kool and the gang to show up. So they're in the back. I think it's Kool and the gang. They're in the background. But, the whole issue was, we're trying to do something for a bunch of starving people in Africa. And it's a very difficult tightrope that you're walking when a bunch of white pop stars show up in a studio and say, we're trying to help out. And on many levels that kind of backfired. But I'm still, obviously I did not organize it. I was part of the machinery making it happen. But I'm still extraordinarily proud of that moment, because we did something which might have, if it saved one life, it was worthwhile doing. And halfway through, it's kind of about lunchtime, and somebody says, Bob, is there any food about what we're doing about lunch? And the whole place went dead quiet, like that Bateman cartoons that used to be in the Punch. And Bob turns to them and he says, you're a fucking pop star. There's a fucking fish and chip shop around the corner. Go and buy your own fucking lunch. And there was like desperate silence. And it was like, well, he's right. He's absolutely right. And he would do this time again. He was in my office one day and he rang up, what's his name, who ran the Tube, Malcolm Gerrie. And of course, his wife, Paula, at the time was on the Tube. The Rat's career is going down in the toilet. They've got an appointment, a booking at the Tube for a new track for the next album. And he says to Malcolm Gerrie, I want you to come down on Sunday and shoot. Sting is going to be there. Boy George is going to be there. He went through the whole list. And Malcolm Gerrie's response was, we'll do it as long as we're the only TV show. Yeah. And Bob said, there's going to be CNN, there's going to be ABC, there's going to be BBC, ITV, Old Grey Whistle Test. And Gerrie said, if Whistle Test is doing it, then we won't. And Bob shouted down the phone. He said, on Monday morning, Rupert Murdoch is giving me the front page of the Daily Mirror and a double page spread inside. On the left-hand side of the page will be a list of all the people who've helped. On the right-hand side of the page will be a list of the people who did not help. So far, you're the only name on the right-hand side. And he slammed the phone down.
Whoa.
And I'm like, Bob, was that a good idea? And almost immediately the phone rings. I pick it up. It's Malcolm Gerrie, and he says, give me Geldof. So I handed the phone to Bob, And Bob says, sure, yes, okay, will do, no problem, great, see you on Sunday. And he put the phone down. I said, what deal have you just made? He said, I've just promised Malcolm Gerrie that when this is all done and I go to Ethiopia, he will be the only crew that comes with me. That was the last thing I needed. I needed somebody to come with me to Africa to show that where the money is going. And he took the bait.
Brilliant.
And you
great story.
I mean, he was awesome. He was unbelievable. I wouldn't like to, be on a desert island with him, but fantastic, incredible energy.
Well, I wouldn't want to be in a room with him, to be honest.
Well, he's got a good heart. He's a lovely bloke.
Well, he's a good heart, but he's got Hitler's PR people working for him, I think, and it just didn't work. My own personal take. What Geldof said about that is that I was on the plane on Concorde, and I'd actually been bulimic for years and I hadn't thrown up for a while, but I remember being on there and looking round, and all the journalists on the plane on Concorde, everyone, there were little tidbits of food coming out, champagne and everything, and I had a look round and I just didn't feel right. I thought, what the fuck? This is PR exercise. For all Live Aid did, that was wrong. And so they were all sitting there with their canapes and stuff. And I went into the toilet and threw up, actually. That was the last time I ever threw up, but I couldn't take it. It just struck me as very wrong that there was money being directed to that. And that was wrong, very wrong. I think there were things wrong about it. But as you say, he did it, Nigel. And bless him, he did it. Yes,
he went to the recording of USA for Africa in LA, which happened subsequently. And when he came back to him, I said, "How did it go?" And he said, "There was food everywhere. I hated it."
Oh well, good for him. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, they supplied all this food to Michael Jackson and and he just said there was food. It was not in the spirit of why we did this.
Well, do forgive me. Then after this, I'll just shut up because the thing about Geldof that none of us liked. Now that's good to hear but what happened was the rats were dead, and then after Live Aid, and I still feel bad about this. Really, he got a deal with Phonogram just after Live Aid for that vegetable album, what it was. And I was live on the BBC on Breakfast Time, I think, and I said, "Well, good for Geldof. It's a shame he got that deal off all the." That record deal off the back of all those dead bodies, and Yates called up to try and get me off the air and stuff, but there was a bit of bitterness and stuff, and there was a Midge thing too, but that's really good to hear, to be honest. That's very nice, because you were much more involved than I was, really, and that's good to hear.
I bet you the canapes and stuff you had on the Concorde were supplied by British Airways. I bet Bob had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So British Airways donated the flight and the food. So
yeah, they're probably like, oh, we got all these fabulous showbiz people. We give canapes out anyway. If you get on the Concorde, it's part of
I never held that against him at all. But the thing is, the trouble is, Nigel, Bob, for whatever his things are, he's still universally not liked by the business, and that's, I don't know why, but Live Aid was a fantastic thing, and God bless him for it. Yeah, because it was better to do it than not.
Look at what he did for Paula Yates' child after he died. I mean, he has extraordinary. I mean, he's probably the one person I've met in my life who talked the talk and walked the walk, whatever the circumstances. And I forever honour him for that.
Yeah, he got totally agreed. I would say that as being a very, very small part of that. I'd say that too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, just briefly coming back to the video, you kind of set the benchmark, didn't you, with those kind of videos? Because often you see studio setups where people are. It always makes me laugh when people hold the head instead of like having their headphones on. There was like,
yeah, but I mean, I didn't show up in the morning and go, how can I set a benchmark here? It's like all these people are arriving at random, and you just let the cameras roll. I mean,
what I was going to say was, in so much as they were actually recording, So you were shooting the recording, whereas often with those videos, it's faked and it's done afterwards, and they're in the studio as a sort of set. But what you were filming was them actually making the record on the same day as shooting the video.
Absolutely, and it was extraordinary to stand 6 feet away from Boy George, from Sting, from Bono, however you pronounce it, you know, Simon Le Bon, and really hear how these people could sing without the effect of the modern studio. That was very, very interesting.
Well, even Simon Le Bon, he sounded all right. Surely not.
Ask me another.
Thinking that
But he can't fucking sing.
I'm saying ask me another. I mean, Boy George was fantastic. Boy George was amazing. Boy George had an extraordinary voice. I was knocked sideways. I'd never realised what a great singer Boy George was.